Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of By All Standards, brought to you by Author Certification. We've been planning these podcasts for quite a while now, but never got around to doing them. They might be a load of rubbish, but we thought we'll give them a go and try and sprinkle a little bit of insight to clients, consultants and business owners out there. Our first episode will be with myself and Martin Graham, our COO. And we'll be talking about how to survive an ISO assessment.
Hey Martin, first of all, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Martin Graham. I'm the COO at Orva, and basically responsible for the daily operations of the business, globally.
So how long have you been doing this in the quality world, and how did you get into it?
Okay, so I've been doing this now in the new year will be 23 years when I first started out in industry. Yeah, so February 2002 was when I first joined, previous certification body. And it's I got into it, I guess, I don't want to say by accident. I was invited into it by a colleague and
Dragged into it.
Yeah, I came into it willingly. And just joined it. It was an opportunity that arose at the time. I didn't really know much at all about certification and or the industry as such. And got to know it, went on my lead auditor course and did those kinds of things. And I remember driving home quite clearly before the days of mobile phones and thinking, what on earth is all this, And I remember getting home and seeing Emma, partner, and saying, Emma, I don't know what this is. But we got through it. Still don't know. Yeah, I'm hoping one day it'll become clear. But as time went on, it became clearer and understood it. They obviously started auditing. Obviously, exposure started off in the early days, little 9001 companies, and that's gone on into environmental, health and safety and things that we all know and love to this day. But it's been an interesting journey and it continues. It continues to this day. So
have you got a favourite standard that you enjoy?
I'll be honest, I think for me, I think that they've got different appeals. I think health and safety appeals to me because it kind of it demands that you're always kind of constantly learning, like the legislative side of things. And I'm one of them people that it drives people mad to some degree. That I know some consultants it drives mad because if there's something that I'm not sure about, I'll look, not at the client, but from the legislation to try and understand what it's all about. And I think I enjoy that process of understanding something and understanding the real compliance sort of requirements. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, trying to get to understand actually what is actually needed here, and that's kind of, I know health and safety, maybe environmental can be quite sort of black and white, I think, but quality obviously appeals as well because you've got to find out about the client, find out about the industry, and and that's so that the whole thing really appeals. Just that kind of every day as a school, you're learning something every single day, So that appeals.
See, I remember not knowing anything about this as well. I think it's one of those industries that you either know it or you don't.
Well, I can't think of anyone at school, when I was at school or to this day, that thinks this is what I want to do as a career. And
careers teacher. I want to be an ISO auditor.
Well, is it first of all, and then think to actually want to do this. But so it's been a long journey. It continues, and obviously the nice thing about the standards is that they evolve, they change, they update. So it's not just the same, although it is the same thing. It's not the same thing,
if everything is evolving, and there's always something new to learn, and like say standards changing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's the way that we'll probably talk about it as we go on, but it's not just it's what's expected of us as auditors, the way that we're expected to audit, rather than the days of just sitting in front of reams of folders and trawling through them and ticking boxes and bring me a cup of tea every once in a while. That's long gone. It's very much an interactive process with the client, which is probably one of the things we'll talk about as we go on. But it's and that's what's made it kind of appeals and interesting. It's not just ticking boxes. We've had to evolve, certainly. Well, I think so. But so it's
cool. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today?
I think the thing we wanted to talk about really was just, it's quite a broad subject, but kind of surviving kind of an audit really, and in the sense of just kind of some of maybe the key things for clients to think about really as they go through the process with us, and just some of the, obviously not exhaustive, but just some of the things that we've noticed over the years and things that maybe we've picked up on. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I guess the first thing, bit of a strange one, because why would people be listening or watching this? What is an ISO assessment, I suppose?
Yeah, I suppose it's it can be. I mean, we get a little bit kind of blasé about kind of talking about ISO terminology and what they are and what it is. But I think, one of the key things to kind of survive in an audit is kind of, understanding, like you say, what it is. And it's, I guess from our side of things, it's the process of us sort of checking against the standard to which the client's going for, to making sure those standards are being met and there's compliance and conformance there. And so the assessment itself is just that process of to what degree the client's management system and them as an organisation is compliant to the standard. So that's where it kind of all begins, really. Yeah.
I wonder why people go for it. Why do people need to get it? Why do they?
I think the main driver is just purely from experience and talking through it. There's a commercial kind of drive behind the whole thing. People ask for things in certain sectors such as construction. It comes up through kind of the pre-qualification process and the tendering process, and it's not necessarily a guarantee, but it's kind of it can kind of help. It's a bit like the Monopoly game, go straight to a certain point, or snakes and ladders, go up the ladder, and it doesn't guarantee, but it can serve a way to give in clients, customers confidence that things that you're doing and you're committing to are actually being done. It's a way of kind of us validating that process.
I do find it can open a door. Won't necessarily let you walk through it, but it will open some doors.
Absolutely. And as well, I think one of the things that we kind of say to, and it's along these lines of kind of surviving the audit, is kind of making sure that you kind of use your system for what it's what you don't try and kind of just get it all prepared at the last minute before the auditor comes in the last week or two. It's kind of part of surviving the process is making sure the system is being used, and design the system around you as a business rather than letting the standard or an auditor push you in a certain direction. It's got to be right for you, certainly. Then it becomes more effective.
Sort of survive on my assessment, I suppose. Well, we want to get out of it.
Yeah, come out of the day alive is obviously always a bonus. But it's I guess it's surviving is maybe not the right. I suppose it's kind of just trying to demystify it to some degree, that it's not this kind of unusual thing that we know something about and the client doesn't. I suppose the important thing is to just make sure that you survive it in the sense that you get through it, in the sense that you're getting some value from it, and it's adding value and being effective for you as a business. I think don't see it necessarily as maybe surviving it, see it as kind of achieving something. That's maybe the way to look at it.
That's a good point.
It's not just kind of like oh phew, thank goodness that's over for the day. Oh, we won't see them again till next year. But that may be part of it, but I think it's part of the process is just to make sure that you as a business understand what it is you're trying to achieve with this whole thing, and communicating that to the business. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I certainly think that some organisations are kind of forced down the route, like you say, for commercial reasons, to go and get the standards. And often they don't necessarily see the value or get the value, because I think it's a bit of that work in, work out type thing. And they do the bare minimum just to get the tick in the box type thing, and they don't necessarily see the full benefits of the process, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's one of the things I just sort of making some points to talk about, really. I guess it's things like fundamental things that have been in management system standards forever, is things like your internal audits, your management review processes. It's like, don't just do them, there's something to show the auditor. It's kind of do them to be like get some value from them, particularly things like the internal audits, because they are your kind of, as an organisation, they are your tool to make sure your system's compliant, make sure that it's effective and that it's working, and it's yes, obviously we do need to see them, but we don't necessarily get impressed by no non-conformities. I think it's sometimes it's one of those things. Don't be afraid if your system and your process identifies non-conformities and issues, because it shows that it's working, and it's.
Well, we have to do the same, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
we have findings raised internally on our internal audits,
and it is easy,
quite seriously.
Yeah, absolutely, and it is very easy, Mike, as you know, to kind of see these things as and non-conformities in particular as a negative thing. And I think part of this kind of surviving process is to recognise kind of the audit process as a positive thing, and even findings, as I know none of us like having findings raised. It's part and parcel of life, I guess, but it's seeing those findings as a means of improving and kind of not necessarily an adversarial kind of thing. It's really important from my point of view. And just on the second point there about management review and so on, don't just see it as as a positive process, that things can be achieved from, certainly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the key tips on surviving a ISO assessment or an aerospace assessment?
Yeah.
Although the differences there are differences, but
I'm not sure I'd survive an ISO, an AS assessment, but we'll see how we even from our side of things. But yeah, it's I think one of the things we always say to people is look at your certification body as a partner. Although we are independent, we are impartial to the process. But I think the key to kind of survival is just communication. It's just to ask the certification body, about what the stages are, kind of what the process is, what to expect, and how to kind of get through that. And I think, don't be afraid to ask questions, in that regard. It's one of the fundamentals, I would say. Certainly, yeah.
That's very true. It's communication, isn't it? And it's not just prior to it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, obviously part and parcel of what we do as a certification body is to plan the audit, and that doesn't just mean scheduling a date in. That means obviously, planning as in timings and availabilities and so on. So, yeah, one of the key kind of things to getting through the day, if you like, or the days as they may be, is to just preparation. Kind of making sure that people are available, information is available, people are aware that we're coming along, and that we may wish to talk to them. So yeah, part of that communication it contributes towards that whole planning process. So yeah, so the certification body will issue you with a plan, and yeah, that can and is allowed to change, but it's ask them the kind of people they want to see and the information that they're asking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the certification body should provide all that beforehand on who
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they will obviously, as well as kind of the practical things such as the dates and the start times and so on. They should provide you, like I say, with a plan of who's coming and who's looking at what part of your system and your operation. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking for things to be moved around. Kind of running orders can change. From our side of things, it's important that we cover the applicable requirements, but the order's not necessarily critical. So yeah, don't be kind of afraid, if you like, to it's not just a set in stone thing. It can be amended, certainly.
Yeah, I suppose people think we're a big scary dragon coming in to do an assessment, but we're quite human, and we know things need to move around, and we do the plan as best fit. It doesn't always work.
I think that's the thing to remember is obviously we recognise and that the organisation we're going into, they are a business. They're running day to day. Things don't just stop for us. We're going in. So it's important that the client understands that things can be changed, but at the same time, we do need things to run in an order, and it's important then from a preparedness perspective and getting through the process is to make sure that things do run, that information is available, people are available. If we've set time, so and so is going to be available, purchasing is going to be available after lunch. Well, okay, let's make sure they kind of are there. Don't just let the auditor turn up and say, oh, they've disappeared now, and it's they had something else to do. It's that can cause delays, and that can cause problems, But
I've definitely had it where all of a sudden you go on an audit, or that you've planned it months in advance, and all of a sudden people go on holiday, or called in sick.
Yeah, it can and does happen. Yeah, it is. But ultimately, one of the problems then is if there's part of the standard or the process that we can't see, that can then potentially cause problems. Because we can't audit it, assess it, we can't necessarily make recommendations. So
I suppose a big part of surviving it is make sure the people are there. Then
the resource, exactly right, and it's making sure the people that do the job. We as auditors like to see the people that are involved in the process. It's not, although someone may be guiding us and pointing us in the right direction, they may not necessarily be responsible for the day to day. So we need to see the right people at the right time as possible.
Yeah, so it is tricky when you're auditing and you want to see a process. Oh, that person's not on holiday, but I could kind of go through it, and then you're going through it and they're a bit iffy. It just does make it complicated, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can do. Yeah, it can cause problems. But I think that's just So fundamental things at the beginning. Part of that, communicate with the certification body, understand and develop the plan with them. So that you as an organisation can make sure the right people are available at the right time to provide the right information. Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got kind of communication, planning, and things like that. Internally planning. Is there anything else that people can do?
I think sort of as you're kind of going through the processes, make sure people kind of know what it is you're trying to achieve with these things. We spoke earlier on about kind of why people go for certification and ISOs, and it's important that the people involved in the process understand the role that they're playing in it, the role towards the objectives, the role towards this system being effective. So I think, it sounds like a fundamental thing to sort of talk about, but it's, make people aware and make them, train them kind of what's expected of them,
So not caught deers in a headlight.
That's it,
Rails questions.
And the more people understand, the less you tend to be kind of afraid of something. It's the more you know about something, the more confident you be. You essentially in kind of getting your points across, and and understanding.
Do you get nervous people when you
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's obviously you can't take emotions out of this process necessarily, but obviously I think you can, because people all have to react to things in different ways. You get some people are very talkative and sort of engaging. Other people can be a bit tougher, so it's kind of, or maybe a bit less confident maybe in the process. But I think from a client side of things, it comes back to the point there just about letting people know what's happening. This isn't a surprise. We always give fair warning. We don't turn up unannounced. We always know what's happening. But I think it's just a case of making sure that people understand, what's coming. It's the one of the things I always do, make a point of if I'm going there for the first time, and certainly an auditee or the organisation, is to explain what I'm doing. And I always try to say to people, we're looking at the process, not the person, and I think that's kind of, obviously we want to understand that person knows what they're talking about, but it's not about looking at them as individuals. We're looking at processes and how they work and how effective they are. So I think from my side of things, I tend to just explain, kind of, there's nothing wrong, kind of having a bit of a conversation, getting to know someone. If there's something you see a football on a desk and you're into football, have a talk about it. There's nothing wrong. We're human at the end of the day, So I think an important part of getting through these processes and coming out positively is to build a relationship, because then it gives us, confidence that the communication is going to flow and people know what they're talking about.
I think if you build that little relationship first, it puts them at ease. They're a bit more open to the conversation.
Yeah. I think just very clear to explain, and from our side of things, it's important that we explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, but also as well from the client side of things, don't be afraid to ask why, kind of, or I'm not, and also as well, don't be afraid to ask, I'm not I don't understand that question. I'm sorry, I don't understand. It's not, we're used to phrasing things in a particular way, ISO-isms, if you like, and but ultimately, if you as a client, you're not sure, just say, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. I don't understand, or I don't understand the relevance, because we I don't know about you, Mike, but I'm always happy to explain, and I'm always trying to refer back to the standard. This is why I'm asking these things. It gives a much better sort of knowledge. So as a client, survival, kind of don't be part of that process is don't worry about asking questions back, points of clarification. It's absolutely fine. We don't mind that. We don't know everything. We know an awful lot, but we don't know everything. But we're always happy to kind of to answer questions that you may have. So
Yeah. Well, obviously sometimes we don't understand things fully. So, part of our questioning techniques is we clarify something and we may have it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's important. Just another point really just on that is, as an auditor, if something is going to be turned into a finding or is coming up as an issue, we want to make sure that you as the auditee and as the client, you understand, because it's no good getting to the end of the audit and presenting it and then we've misunderstood something, so it's important that, we understand. So please make sure you kind of always be honest and truthful, and so that we can understand, because that'll either lead to, a better understanding on our part and better points of clarification around any findings that may come up. So
Okay, cool. So have you ever had anyone try and kind of feed you something they think you want to hear, and
they feed me something?
Feed you
always happy to be fed, Mike.
Tell you, you can kind of sense from them that they're kind of making something up because they think they know what the answer should be, but the way you ask the question,
I think it's one of those things. It's kind of maybe trying to tell you something that you want to hear, and that can sometimes then unravel a can of worms, can't it? It can be kind of then, well, because although we're not certainly not trying to we're not asking loaded questions or trying to trip people up. Sometimes it just through our process of trying to understand, if we're not being told something that's connecting up with it, it makes us kind of think, well, okay, but what about? So yeah, it can be, yeah, I think like it comes back to the point, just be truthful. And, if you don't know or you're not sure, just say, or like you said earlier, let me go and talk to someone. That's not my area that I'm responsible for. You're not expected to know everything, as an organisation. Just say, actually, I don't deal with that. We need to go and talk to such and such. That's absolutely fine. You're not expected to know everything and get through an audit on your own. It's certainly not.
I think be open and honest, I think, is kind of the summary of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you don't know anything, put your hands up. Someone else might know the answer.
Yeah.
Try and feed us a load of
definitely.
rubbish, really, just because we sniff it out, funny enough.
Yeah.
Something doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, just it's part of that process. Yeah. Certainly understand what's being asked of you and kind of why. And if it's not your area or you don't know, then that's fine. It's not the world's not gonna stop. Things will carry on, and we can always go down a different route or a different line of questioning and talk to another person. It's absolutely fine. So
okay.
Yeah.
So anything else they can do on preparing to how to survive it?
Yeah, I think just sort of practical things such as, don't be afraid to sort of take breaks like during an audit. This can be quite an intense process. Don't be afraid to sort of take breaks for comfort breaks and drinks and those kinds of things. It can, but practical things such as that, take a breather, go and look into absolutely. Yeah. Look into the middle distance for 5 minutes and just clear your head. And okay, come back to it. We're not there for 8 hours continually questioning. So yeah, practical things such as, just take those breaks. Don't worry about any findings that may come up. It's, although, it's always nice to get nothing and positive. Invariably our recommendations are positive, but sometimes they do have findings, but don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of that process, certainly.
I find that people sometimes, when you mention I've got a finding, they sort of panic and you see sweat on their brow. They think that's it, everything's over.
Yeah, it can be. I think it's just a human thing, isn't it? None of us necessarily like to sort of have failures, if you like, identified. And I think this process is seen. It's got a lot of stigma attached to it, being sort of negative. And you say the word audit, and it's blimey, kind of. It's got that kind of. But I think the way of looking at these things and say kind of surviving and getting through the process is look at it as a means of us. Use us essentially. I suppose that's the thing, kind of use the knowledge that we've got and the experience and say, well, okay, don't see it, the whole process as negative, see it as a potentially kind of positive things. And it's obviously, findings do sometimes great work, but that work is not necessarily negative. It can be lead to changes and improvements in what you do. We're not there to find fault. We're there to obviously add value, not tell you what to do, but obviously we can we take those things into consideration. We're auditing.
You had anyone ever get sort of really sticky or aggressive when you've said, "Oh, I'm going to have to raise something"? You had that?
Sometimes it can get a bit kind of I don't know, argumentative is the wrong way, but it's I think it's maybe the thing to remember in that regard is we can't raise things against what we think is good or what a good way. We can only raise observations of opportunities for improvement in that regard. If a finding is going to be raised, and this is another thing to remember for organisations, is that we can only raise it against a criteria, and that criteria is the standard or your own procedures or legislation or contractual things. So if there is a point of confrontation, it's just always be sure about, and it comes back to the point about clarifying if a finding is coming up, where does the standard ask for that? So I've never had anything particularly confrontational. Sometimes there's some discussions, so we say, they get around certain things, and it's but nothing particularly nasty. No blood's been drawn yet. So
I think that's, like you say, back to your point, that if everyone's clear and it's communicated and this is what I'm trying to do and this is what it's not lining up, then it's hard to, what can they argue against, really, I suppose.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So in terms, part of the survival kind of process is kind of just if anything's coming up, because it's important that you understand because it helps you address the issue, but also kind of, I didn't understand, didn't realise the standard was actually asking for that, so it's,
Yeah, we're not out to get anyone, are we?
no, definitely not. No, and I think that's the important thing to remember. It's not about finding fault. It's about kind of, we're there to sort of be positive at the end of the day, and we do get, I always enjoy, when you've had a good audit and there's positive recommendations. It's always a nice feeling when you see a company like kind of relieved, if you like, that they've gotten through it, but the hard work has been recognised. And I think that's kind of that's an important word from our side of things. It's recognising the work that's gone in. Might not be perfect, but it's an important part of it. So yeah,
I mean, we go through it ourselves, don't we? We have UCAS assessments all the time.
Yeah, we do. We've got a nice week or so, 2 weeks coming up in the new year. So yeah,
looking forward to that.
Yeah.
It's quite a stressful time.
Yes, yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can be.
We get findings, and it's just like say it's part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So, is there anything else to sort of add in there?
I think basically, I think the main points there are just kind of get that communication, be prepared, tell your team about kind of what's going on, and and just sort of tell them not to be worry about it. If things do get picked up, then that's okay. It's not if that's great. It can be used as a positive. So ask questions, engage. We're humans. We've got families and interests outside of auditing, I think. I know you're pretty deep into it, Mike, but we do have a life outside of these things, and obviously we don't want to become, like it's about impartiality and objectivity, but we are very, very open to building relationships, and part of that surviving and getting through the process is building those relationships. It builds confidence and it builds kind of we're comfortable that if the process system's working and it's as it should be.
Yeah. You always look for signs in the company, like things like I see a medal or something, or if I see some running shoes or a bike, I try and start the conversation to try and build that personal link, and it puts people at ease. And you can build some rapport quite easily, I think with personal connections in there, and just puts people at ease and makes the audit go a lot smoother.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think I know we don't do it so much nowadays, if at all, but remote auditing and stuff during lockdown, I think there was some conversation starters in the backgrounds on them during them, and so people walking past and things, and people's maybe they should have blurred out. I won't go into those details, but it's I think exactly that. It comes down to a rapport, sort of an engagement, and because I think from our side of things as well, the harder it is for us to get information out, it just makes the whole process kind of drag on, and it's and I fully appreciate people have got different personalities and so on, but it's just be open, it's and be you don't feel about yours. Such we're testing, or we're looking, if you like, at the process and how it links from the previous one onto the next step, and that's kind of what we're after. Yeah.
I don't like remote audits.
No, they're tough. It's it comes back to the point about it's almost impossible. There's clients that you just don't know. You can talk, but you can't engage. It's a different thing. It's maybe if you've been to a client for a good number of years and you can sort of get straight into it, that's arguably easier. But certainly going into sort of initials and those kinds of things, or a new client, it can be. It's very tough going. Yeah, very tough going. Yeah. No. So yeah.
You said about personal. I remember once I had a remote audit. I actually think it was UCAS. And my son walked in naked. Mid conversation, I was like, like you say, we're all human. We all have lives.
It happens, and I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's the thing to remember is kind of just through, if you're going to boil this down to a point or two, it's kind of this. This is what we do. It's easy for us, but ultimately, it is important, but it's not the most important thing. It's important for organisations to understand, why they're doing it, what they're trying to achieve, and our role in achieving that. But in terms of surviving and getting through it, it's just, I don't want to say enjoy it, but you almost do. It's almost kind of like just say, okay, come in, have a look, see what's going on. This is what we've done. It might be good enough. It might not. Okay, well, how do we get around there then?
Yeah, we can help the organisation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think I mean, I know, like you say, we go through audits ourselves, and it's invariably things come up, and for the very most part, they are you think actually, yeah, that is right. That is fair, And I think that's the thing, as long as the process is fair. There was a phrase, hard to please but fair, and I think that's kind of challenging. The process is challenging because people spend time and money on these things, and can be an anxious time for them. But in terms of getting through it, as long as you put the effort in, we can see that we recognise kind of effort when it's been made. I think that's an important thing as well. Yeah, it's not just kind of like gotcha, that kind of thing. It's absolutely not that at all. We're always happy to recognise, effort when it's been made and commitment to the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
we do see that. You're right. Yeah, we do see that quite a bit.
And I think just on that, obviously, kind of to the point about kind of the way standards have evolved over the years. We started mentioning that at the beginning. Obviously, nowadays it's there's a big role around kind of leadership within these things and other people within the organisation, not just a person being audited. Yeah, and I think that's another key thing to remember for organisations is that it's not just down to an individual. Everyone within the organisation can and arguably should kind of play a part in the process. And it's so we'll look to have those kind of conversations with various people. So make them aware of what's coming. And the thing is, as well, you've got the ultimate, if you like, cheat sheet from an auditing perspective is if you've got a copy of the standard that tells you what you should be doing. So as long as you're doing that, it's kind of well, shame where I'm not. But it's because I think that's as well we can we have to put a lot of things in context because the standard applies to so many different industries, and we always have to keep things in context and what's relevant to a one person working from their living room, which I know we've talked to organisations like that, through to big organisations. So we always had to be willing to kind of accept that contextual kind of thing as well.
What's important for a big organisation isn't important for a smaller one, is it?
Absolutely, and I think that's a good point to remember is that as long as we can see that the controls and the system is in context and it's relevant and working for you as an organisation, and it's not for us to disprove that it is or it isn't. It's kind of just as long as we can see that it's effective, that's kind of where we go. So that's an important thing to remember that it's working for us and we can show it to be effective. Well, okay, that's okay,
I think some auditors struggle with that. So if they come from a big corporate environment, spent 25 years working in whatever big corporation, then they come into the auditing world, and then they go into a smaller organisation. I do find they struggle a little bit sometimes. Where's this? Where's that? Where's that? They might not even have an account system, for example, for raising purchase orders. It might be manual. Things like that.
I think one of the biggest kind of things in that sense was maybe the current version of the standard has done away with a lot of that shall be documented and recorded and all that kinds of things. And certain auditors, and I know myself, kind of previously, you're so used to seeing things written down, documented, like as I mentioned earlier, like reams of paper on a thing. But now it's okay. As auditors now, we have to sort of dig a little bit deeper and understand and say, okay, just because it's not on a piece of paper doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. It may be documented within CRMs and other systems and other software things and so on. Just ourselves, we're in the process of rolling out and using an app, whereas in the past that was all hard copy and it's
sheet.
Technology has evolved. So as auditors, and I think that's from an organisation's perspective, an auditee perspective, is to don't be afraid to put things in a format or in a way that suits them. It works for them. Yeah, it works for them.
Yeah, I had a client a couple of years ago that they were buying. They had basically one main supplier, but they were in Far East. They were in the UK, and they were doing their purchase orders over WhatsApp.
Okay, yeah.
No, it was sort of text.
Yeah,
just like this, use this number type thing, and this is what I want, and get it to me by this time. And I'm like, all the information's there.
Yeah.
I can't.
What do you
I
do?
can't really. It's right.
It's cemented. Yeah. What do you do? Yeah.
It's different, but it works, and it worked for him. And he says I do a lot of it on the fly and things like that. It works. We've got to be open to that type of thing.
That's exactly it. I think kind of the big word in our industry is, is it effective? Is the process effective in, achieving what it's trying to achieve? Be that, quality related, obviously, everything that entails with regards to customers and so on. But also if you're auditing different standards, environmental and health and safety, it's important for the organisation to remember as well as part of this kind of preparedness and survival kind of processes, thinking environmentally, it's what is the actual end goal here? It's not just about, making sure the waste is in the right bin. It's that is certainly part of it, but it's about the bigger picture. Yeah. I always take it back to like policy statements. If you can almost raise any non-conformance against the policy, because that's saying we're going to do these things. Well, okay, let's see how they're actually working. How does your system support those policy statements, what you're trying to achieve, and it's, yeah. So I think that's a really kind of important part of it, is to organisations to remember, exactly what this is all about, take it, don't overcomplicate it, don't overthink it. I think it's easy to, I'm one of the world's, I'm sure, worst overthinkers, and it's really easy to overcomplicate things, but take it back to what we're actually trying to achieve with these things, and get your head around that. Look at the standards, obviously, have access to the standards. It's probably one of the first things that should be top of the list, get a copy of the standard, and it's not just some kind of weird science that we get involved with. It's well, it is, but it's yeah. You may have a consultant who will point you in the right direction, but even then, have a copy of the standard, read through it, get a copy of the standard. It's probably should have been absolutely the top of the list, but yeah, get a copy of the standard.
That was my first question. I think when I go to clients,
I'll probably get one off eBay after today. But so I think fundamental point really, just okay, what does this actually mean? What are we trying to achieve here? Get your head around that, and also as well, it's kind of looking at how what you do already potentially, how that kind of aligns with the standard, rather than trying to invent a piece of paper. I know sometimes we've gone down the road of how do we solve that? Oh, let's just put another box on the form kind of thing, and it's actually that may not be the best way of doing it.
Yeah, people do like throwing forms in for this ticking a box type situation, but the current system may work for it, and it's very good.
I think that's it. It's just kind of it comes back to that point about being effective and intended results and those kinds of things. And and not just on those kinds of things, I just caught a word in my notes about jargon, kind of, we'll always try and be as clear as we can, but if we're using something that just doesn't mean anything, we get a little bit blasé about things, but because we're using them every day potentially.
Yeah, I do. It's a big part of the aerospace scheme is to understand what the terminology the client uses, and we try and always approach that process using their terminology. And when we see people's management systems that are built around the terminology of the standard, kind of challenge them on it, because I say, all right, I'm going to go and ask this person these exact words, and they'll say, okay, what's context of the organisation mean? Someone just gets a blank look on their face, really, because it's foreign to them. But if they just use their own language, it's what we do or whatever they call it, that'll work. It works for us. It's not for us to sort of determine what the jargon should be. It's up to them to determine, and we know where that fits in the standard, really, don't we?
That's exactly it. That's a good point. It's about our job, as well as obviously looking for compliance and conformance, is to look at what the organisation does and how that fits into the standard. That's an important part of it. So you use your own terminology, absolutely. And if we're not sure, then we'll ask.
We'll ask you. Yeah.
And that's what we
mean. What's the process? And they'll tell us, oh yeah, that's that part of the standard.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's just
write it for you, not for us.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, mate. Yeah, exactly. Keep it in context. Or if you don't like the word context, you use relevant. Keep it relevant to you. Kind of make sure it works for you and it's the right size and shapes. And that's important part of it. So keep it simple. Like, don't overthink it. Get copies of the standard. Kind of get that communication. Be prepared. Tell the team and the people involved what's happening, the role they make in it. Yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. Engage, build a relationship.
You ever had someone really struggle on the assessments, on the audits? Can you notice someone locking up, or suddenly getting a fear of God in them, or something?
You get people who are kind of very, very wary of kind of, like you said earlier, kind of sort of disappearing when people come around, or not making eye contact, and it can be, and you feel for them people, because it's naturally going back a year when I first started out, I wasn't, certainly wasn't outgoing, and actually auditing was kind of not frightening, but it was kind of, it did really put me outside of my comfort zone, and it's whenever you're in a situation where there is someone who's nervous or kind of not responding, you always try and make sure you get that put them in and relax. But trying to think
I've told people to go and take 5 minutes if I see them locking up a little bit. I'm like, let's just go and take 5 minutes, get coffee or break, whatever you want to do,
Whatever you
and
want to
we'll
do.
come back to it. And they just seem to be a bit relaxed.
I've never had anyone.
But they could say the same thing, can't they? They can quite easily say, look, can you just give us a couple of minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Like, yeah, no problem.
nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's just like, okay, just gather my thoughts, and because when your head's going, and you've got to remember as well, these people are in the middle of their day job as well, aren't they? You know, like that for us it's our day job, but they're doing their things as well, and they might have time set aside for you, but they might. I know that's another thing actually. I say to people, look, if you're sitting here, and we'll try not to be interrupted, because that's obviously not good necessarily, but if things happen, that are important for the business, they need to carry on. That's fine. You do that. Yeah, it's not just kind of like, oh, we've got to spend all our time with people, but yeah, I've never had any nasties, never had any people faint or anything like that. But it's you do get some people who are naturally kind of nervous. But again, that shows that they care about the process and what's going on. So
yeah, cool. Okay, I think that's great. I think we're at the end of the time.
Okay.
So unless there's anything else to add,
No, I
appreciate
don't
your time.
think so. No, you're welcome. That's I hope this has been useful and proven to some degree that we are somewhat human. Remains to be seen. No, it's wish everyone well with how they pursue their audits, and good luck, everyone.